Hello all, and a warm welcome to Brain Voyage. Today, we're diving deep into a fear that's kind of baked into our DNA, one that shapes our world in some really surprising ways. It's the reason why a huge empty ocean can feel way more terrifying than a real everyday danger. So let's get into it.
This feeling, which this Reddit user just nails, it's something so many of us have felt. It's the core of a primal fear called thalassophobia, the fear of the deep ocean. It's that stomach-dropping sensation when your feet can't find the bottom and all you see below is just endless dark blue.
So the question is, what is it that actually scares us down there? Is it really the sea monsters from old maps and movies, the Kraken, the Megalodon? Or is the fear coming from somewhere much, much deeper inside our own minds? To figure that out, we've got to explore the psychology of this abyss. It turns out the ocean we're so afraid of is as much a landscape inside our heads as it is a real place on our planet. And what's so wild about this is that thalassophobia isn't just a fear of drowning. For a lot of people, it's the fear of the vast, dark, deep emptiness itself. Just the sheer scale of it all is what's terrifying. This right here, this really gets to the heart of it. Like so many people online say, the real terror isn't about a shark. It's that overwhelming feeling of the unknown. It's the sheer empty void, and that feeling of having absolutely zero control when you're just floating above it. The psychologist Carl Jung actually gave us a pretty cool way to think about this. He suggested that the deep sea is a symbol for what he called the collective unconscious. That's like a shared, hidden part of our minds that holds all the primal, messy shadow stuff of humanity. All the things we don't really want to look at. And think about this. The words we use totally give away our fear. We call the deepest parts of the ocean the abyssal zone and the hadal zone. These words literally come from abyss and Hades, the underworld. Our own language frames the deep sea as this negative, almost hellish place, the exact opposite of the sky and the heavens above. Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. This fear of the unknown, it doesn't just stay in the water. It fundamentally messes with how we see risk in our everyday lives. It's like we're all walking around with a broken internal riskometer. So how well does our idea of what's dangerous, which we mostly get from the news, actually match up with reality? A really fascinating study from the National Institutes of Health decided to measure exactly that. And what they found is, well, it's kind of stunning. Just look at this data. Back in 2003, new, scary-sounding threats like SARS and bioterrorism got over 100,000 media reports, but they caused fewer than a dozen deaths in the U.S. At the same time, familiar dangers, smoking, not being active, were responsible for almost 800,000 deaths, but they got less than a tenth of the media coverage. Our attention is completely backward. So why does this happen? Well, there's a psychological reason for it called prospect theory. Basically, our brains are hardwired to freak out about new, changing, and uncertain threats. A new, unknown virus just feels so much more urgent and newsworthy than the slow, predictable, and way deadlier risk of a bad diet. And all this leads us to a really crucial and kind of weird point about human nature. Our desperate need for things to be certain can actually lead us to make some deeply irrational and often self-destructive choices. Listen to this quote. It's from a therapy client, and it is just, wow. It says it all, right? It shows us this core human truth. We often prefer a bad situation we know, like a dead-end job or an unhappy relationship, over an unknown, uncertain future, even if that future could be so much better. And this is how we get trapped. We get caught in this cycle. We face something new and unknown, we get scared of what we can't control, so we run back to what's familiar, even if that familiar thing is making us miserable. And that's how we get stuck, avoiding the very risks that would help us grow. So the million-dollar question is, how do we break this cycle? How do we learn to face that deep, dark water, to step into that metaphorical forest of uncertainty that we are so instinctively afraid of? You see, that fear of the deep ocean is really just a powerful metaphor for our fear of life's biggest unknowns. Those huge changes in our careers, our relationships, even our own identity. We get caught between the fear of staying the same and the fear of becoming someone new. So here's the bottom line. Our brains are basically wired to fear the void, whether it's the bottom of the sea or an uncertain future.
But just knowing that, just recognizing that our fear of the unknown is often way, way bigger than the actual danger, that's the first and most powerful step you can take. It's how we can consciously choose exploration over fear and discovery over staying stuck.